Hi everyone and happy Christmas! I'm Rob King, this is Homebrew number 44 and a very Christmas themed Turbo Cider. Now the first stage, primary, is a simple Turbo Cider and you could just stop there. But we decided to go full hog into secondary with lots of wonderful Christmas flavours. Check it out! This is the Homebrew Masterplan with 16 homebrews aligned to 16 special events throughout the year. And we are down to the final two with a Christmas themed Turbo Cider. We have just the mulled wine to go and the winter warmer still causing us some problems. In extended conditioning, we still have to see how that one's going to turn out. For primary fermentation, we really only require 4.5 litres of store-bought apple juice, but I'm going to also increase the ABV slightly and hence I'm going to also include some brewing sugar, but this is an optional step. The choice of yeast is the Lalvin EC1118, which is a nice clean yeast, and that allows all of the flavours that we're going to add in secondary to come through. Basic equipment is a thermometer, a hydrometer and measuring cylinder, of course the airlock and bung, and finally a spoon and a jeweler's scales. First step of course is sanitisation of any equipment that's going to be used in the preparation of this recipe. The gravity of the apple juice alone is 1.046. This is going to be useful later on when we can work out the final gravity and the ABV with or without the sugar addition. We are going to start by warming up 300 millilitres of apple juice. In that we can dissolve 200 grams of brewing sugar. This will help us bring up the ABV to the final result that we're looking for, but as mentioned earlier, this is optional. Also add 5 grams of Fermado, this is a yeast nutrient, to make sure that we get the best fermentation we possibly can. The addition of 4 tea bags is to add tannin that is present in fruit naturally but not present in fruit juice. We add this in to improve the mouthfeel of the final result. This has been allowed to steep for an hour and also cool down to close to room temperature. Adding this nutrient and tea mix to the fermenter when it's too hot would raise the temperature and potentially take it outside of the range for pitching. So by leaving it for a little while at this stage, everything has cooled to the right temperature to move on to the next step. This is it then when we bring all of the various ingredients together. The apple juice, the yeast and tea mix, and also we can pitch the yeast. Finally, I'm going to give it a good stir to make sure it's all mixed in, and also just top up the apple juice so we've got 4.5 litres. The original gravity comes in at 1.060, and knowing this yeast will attenuate very well, I'm expecting the end result to come in near to 7% ABV. You can of course mix all of the ingredients in the demijohn itself. I just find it a little easier to do it in this large jug, to mix it all together and then simply transfer. It just leaves us to add the bung and the airlock. Job done, ready for fermentation. It's only been about 3 hours and we have some bubbles. When setting out on this homebrew, my expectations were pretty straightforward. The fermentation profile will be 2 weeks in fermentation, 2 weeks in secondary for all of that flavouring, a quick cold crash into the bottles and then carbonate for 2 weeks before conditioning for 2 weeks, giving us an 8-week overall time frame. However, I did decide to change my mind and went for keg carbonation and then bottling from the keg. This reduced the overall time frame to 6 weeks because we had 2 weeks in fermentation, 2 weeks in secondary for flavouring, and once that keg carbonation had finished, it was ready to drink at week 6. However, in practice and because of timing of holidays etc, I put the bottles to one side and there was a further 6 weeks of conditioning before I popped them open for the evaluation. But as you will see, everything was ready at the 6-week mark. This is day 1. We are looking lush. Some cleanup needed. I'm certainly going to be back a little later for a second cleanup. Still really active close up. Still fizzy. Still has a little bit of bubbling going on. Lovely colour. It is time to add all those wonderful Christmas spices, of which there is a good selection. So starting from top to bottom, we have 2 cinnamon sticks, 4 cloves, 3 cardamom pods, 6 allspice berries and 4 star anise, 10 grams of sweet orange peel and 2 grams of nutmeg, which is about a level teaspoon, 2 teaspoons of vanilla essence, and finally 20 milliliters of glycerine. Rock on! Before we add the spices, we'll take a gravity reading so that we can calculate the final ABV, and then we will transfer the cider off the lees into a fresh demijohn, ready for secondary. Star anise, more spice, carbon anise. Mix the glycerine and the vanilla essence together. Hopefully that'll just go in a bit easier. Sanitised cup and sanitised spoon. That is pretty much dead on 1.000. I am fully expecting to back sweeten this with a little bit of erythritol. However, I'm going to give it a taste first and then judge exactly how much I'm going to add of the back sweetening non-fermentable sugar. It has dried out a lot, but the aroma is still very apple. It's still got a little bit of a haze to it, you can see it there. It does have a bit of an unusual funk to it. It's not like an awful funk, but there is something in the aroma I can't quite put my finger on. Well, taste, that is very dry, but it's very nice already. If you were to just stop here for a turbo cider, you would not be in a bad position. This is actually a very lovely dry cider. However, I do prefer a sweeter cider, hence the addition of non-fermentable sugar in the erythritol. This is the fun of turbo ciders, all of the different flavourings that you can add at any stage of the fermentation. My original plan was to put 250 grams of erythritol in, and we do have a good volume. I am going to stick with that plan. That is sweet rather than medium sweet in terms of the amount of sugar being added. So if you prefer medium sweet, just cut that amount of sugar in half. This is pre-boiled water. This is a sugar wash to help it dissolve more easily. In practice, I needed to use a little bit more water than I actually did. And of course, everyone's least favourite step is cleanup. To make a bit of a mess. It's how the sediment settled in this one. We got loads of wonderful clear cider. The temperature out here in the garage is currently 13 degrees. I'm going to monitor it with the Ferminator, but honestly I'm not going to regulate it with the Ferminator. I just want to keep it cool. We don't have a lot to do on this. I want to give it as much time as possible really for those flavours to fully develop. We're not in a rush. We are on day 30 and it is time for us to transfer into the Mini-Keg for the next phase of carbonation and conditioning. Pressure is set to around 18 psi for carbonation. We extracted a little bit more cider than expected from the fermenter, so I've actually ended up with a whole bottle's worth of cider left over. Not wishing to miss the opportunity, I'm going to bottle carbonate just the single bottle. We might have that a bit early. And clean up, of course. The keg can go in the fridge for a couple of weeks, and meanwhile outside it's snowing. Very Christmassy, just on cue. It's day 43. We've had 2 weeks in the fridge, and in that time the pressure has increased up to 24 psi and the keg has frozen. We've had fun and games. It's time to attach the party tap and see what we have. Here we are then for a quick test of the winter cider. Still has a bit of a hazy look to it, but actually when you take away the condensation, there is quite a bit of clarity in there. So just a touch of haze rather than pure clarity. Aroma. Oh wow, I get absolutely everything hitting me with the aroma. I do enjoy experimenting with all the different flavours in different quantities with this cider. And again, you know, oh, this is looking fantastic. Good colour, good aroma, taste. Straight off the bat, amazing mouthfeel. Really feels full on the mouth. And lots of flavours too, hitting you straight away. A good amount of dryness to it, which also helps with that mouthfeel. It is a wonderful blend of flavours. Carbonation is actually quite light. I think some work to do with the party tap, but carbonation itself is quite light. This is a highly enticing Christmas cider. Right, we've got to get it into some bottles, but I think I'll pour myself another. I can never quite get this party tap right. However, that being said, this one has poured a little better. We are good to go then for bottling, and the first step of course is to sanitize all the bottles and equipment that we're going to use. We are going to use the counter pressure bottle filler to transfer to the bottles. This will give an air-free transfer, and we have 6 bottles in the bag. More cleanup to do, but sausage rolls this time. This is the single bottle carbonated Christmas cracker Turbo Cider. Bottle carbonating does result in some yeast settling out there at the bottom of the bottle. Nice pop. Ooh, nice fizz. Wow, happy Christmas! The aroma continues to be fantastic. It still has a little bit of a haze to it. It's pretty clear. The aroma is definitely enticing. I definitely get that cinnamon, maybe just a touch of clove. The other spices do tend to blend together, but the overall effect is wonderful. Small sip. Now, one of the experiments with this brew, of course, was the glycerin. We used the highest amount of glycerin, still not the maximum for the quantity, but the highest amount of glycerin that we've ever used. And the mouthfeel definitely is full. It does have a big effect on that. However, I don't think it is more full than when we used half the quantity in the pear cider. So I do think it's in that range where it doesn't make too much difference between 10 and 20 milligrams. Ooh, so good. Carbonation is medium, refreshingly good. That also helps with the mouthfeel. When it comes to flavours though, there is so much hitting the tongue here. Lots of lovely spices. It's a very spicy cider. This is a very delicious cider to drink in moderation, but it does have a bit of a cloying feel to it. It makes it an interesting slow drink. Well, my single bottle carbonated Christmas cracker turned out great. We're just going to have to wait for Christmas Day for the rest. And that carbonation is wonderful. This is our Christmas cracker, a truly spiced up Christmas cider. Now this has been in the fridge for a good length of time, and this is the one that was carbonated in the keg. Loving the pop. Well, liking that carbonation. This is looking extremely promising. Cheers everyone, this is our spiced Christmas cider. Clarity is amazing, aroma, well, it has a lot going on in here. It does have all of those Christmas scents, nice spicy feel to it. Definitely get a bit of that cinnamon, just a tiny amount of orange peel. But we've got lots of other things in here. So going back to my notes, we've got cloves, we've got cinnamon, we've got cardamom pods, we've got allspice, nutmeg, star anise and vanilla all going into this flavour. And in combination, it comes together as a wonderfully Christmassy drink. Well, I've got this nice and cold. And even though we did some back sweetening on this, this came out rather dry, and it does still have a good amount of dryness on the palate, but that's great because it gives you all of those spicy notes. It's really drinkable. There isn't a single type of the spice or herbs that we've added that really comes to the fore. It is the combination of them all that really does give you that Christmas themed flavouring to this drink. As I say, it's a very quaffable, and if one of those flavours was something you thought, oh, I'm not really keen on cinnamon or not keen on cloves, no one of them stands out. Particularly, it is the combination of it all that really gives it that full flavour. Now, we doubled down on the glycerin on this, and there is a full mouthfeel to it, but I don't think we really needed to double down on the glycerin. If you look back to the pear cider, which we did recently, it was only half the quantity, and that came out wonderful, full, sweet mouthfeel. We've got that. I don't think we need as much glycerine as we had in this one to achieve the same result. If you look down the flavourings we used in this drink, they all have a similar theme. They're warm, they're savoury, they're spicy, and all of that comes through. A little bit herbal, but certainly none of them are particularly strong or bitter. Also, one peculiar downside to all of these flavourings is you don't really get a huge apple taste to it. But as a little warm-up for Christmas, this is an absolute winner. Happy Christmas everyone, thank you very much for watching, cheers, good health. The Homebrew Masterplan 2024 is rapidly coming to an end. We have only a few days left of this year and only really one other item left to complete, which is the mulled wine, a lovely little special to finish the year on. However, the winter warmer is still in recovery and could still end the year on a win. I'm also interested to see what you guys think for plans for 2025. Do drop me a line. Cheers, Happy New Year.